let me start here. Um, I just turned 25, and I feel like this has been a very clear line between like the act one of my life moving through act two. And I wanted to document how I felt in this moment, both for myself, but also if anyone else resonates with this kind of period of transition. Um, I think there was a script I was running for the first 25 years that I needed to play out to its logical conclusion. And once the script met its end, it was finally freeform mode, um, for me to kind of run up against the walls of what that mentality brought. So I'll start by saying, like, I got to this point by really doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. When I was growing up, um, I got straight A's in school. I never got anything lower than an A all through high school. And my parents valued education, but never really pushed it on me. I think as a result of that, I was really driven to get approval of some kind. And even though it wasn't forced upon me, I knew that the path to stability was to be smart and get money. I come from a family of doctors, and um, and a family of with a history of immigration, Korean and Jewish. So I think those are about the most bookish cultures you can come from. So I think even if it wasn't necessarily spoken, this is something that I kind of emotionally sensed into and tried to maximize my output there. And I remember really like clinging to the stability of being good at school, being identified as smart, and like on the track to have a stable future. At the same time, I also was really interested in money, and dealing in transactions, not even like the accumulation of it, but just the concept of it, the concept of like value exchanging hands and things like that. So, yeah, I knew that in order to be successful, I needed to be smart, get good grades, have the approval of the adults in the room, go to a good school, and get a job, get a good job after school, that leverage that prestigious degree. And yeah, I worked myself to the absolute bone in high school. I was taking 7 classes a day, starting at 7 a.m. I was on the tennis team, so I would finish up school, go to school at 7, finish up at 4 or 5, go home, I was on the state board for a community service organization as treasurer, so I had responsibilities around that too. I was taking 6 APs, and it was a lot. But I knew it was worth it, to put myself on the path that I had to go to. I had to go to a good school. I don't know what I would do if I didn't. If I didn't go to a good school, then I wouldn't be smart, right? And I was pretty much willing to do anything for this, but also alienate myself. I was willing to, like, suck up, or I think the only way I knew how to go through it was to be nice, and instead of like kind of, I'm not exactly sure, but I didn't like bumping elbows with people. I wanted things to be smoothed over. Um, yeah, and so all of this like hard work ended up paying off. Ended up getting into UPenn and going into computer science. And I remember when I first got to Penn, I had a very strong reaction, like that this place isn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought that there'd be some sort of vaulted material, some learning that wouldn't exist anywhere else, but the truth is the things there were things I could have learned anywhere. And I had a real strong reaction to that at the time, but I kind of continued on with the script. And so the next part of the script was to get a software engineering job in tech. And as much like college admissions, I could just go for it. And it was like a clear goal. I could do it. I didn't really need to consult myself or what vision I had. But I did it. I got a job at a tech company, and I've been there for the last 3 years as a software engineer doing payments work. And in a sense, if I look back and I see what my 15-year-old, 14-year-old self would have wanted, I basically played out the script of my life fully. What I wanted was, or what I thought I needed for stability was to get an Ivy League degree and attach myself to an established organization. And yeah, I did that. And on the other side of it now looking, I'm like, wow, that's all I wanted in the world was to do that. And I did it. At the same time, once I actually got there, the experience of going through it was much more like surrendering myself, or struggling to keep up and not really exerting my will, not moving myself in a direction that I maybe wanted to be. And if I think back to where I wanted to be growing up, I would always make videos, and like origami and um, different modes of expression. And I had been interested in tech. I've always been interested in computers and phones and like all of these devices, um, and I wanted to be, or thought I wanted to be, like an entrepreneur of some kind. But all of these assumptions I left unquestioned until I actually got to the end of this. And so once I was in a position where it was like, you're going through this like the rough rapids, and then finally you hit out to the calm waters after, and you're actually able to think about what you just went through and think of things other than what I thought of as my own survival. I think a few things came to light. One is that I'm not so sure how whether technology, like communication systems, are the absolute good that I thought they were. In fact, I think now that they definitely are not. And I've seen how these services can start to separate people from their community and separate people from relating to other people. So that was one thing that I was at odds with, especially given the type of work that I did, that I had studied for, that I thought I had to do, and that I thought it was like cool and good. So there's that piece of it. I think the other thing was I was really upset with myself and my own habits. I tried to change my habits by trying different apps and trying different devices that supposedly are better for your health and your relationship with technology. And every time I would get these services, I would maybe use them for a week or two, but my behavior wouldn't change. And it made me realize that the the devices or the things we buy, the things we use, they only work if they're compatible with your mind. And in order to make use of the tool, I actually needed to change my mind first. So that I could use it effectively. So, yeah, I think technology not necessarily being an inherent good, and trying to intervene in my own life and with material things, and noticing that the material could only change my mind so much, but actually I needed my mind to change first before I could be in flow with the whatever material things I brought in. And yeah, I think the last thing was that I was just completely burnt out. I described it as having poor threat detection, where you have all of these demands of you to go certain places, to do certain tasks, to do certain things. The feeling that you needed to do, I needed to do something, this thing or that thing, and I couldn't really triage it. They were all top priority, and pulling me apart. And when I was pulled apart in so many different ways, how much time is left to actually think? Yeah. So this left me at a really tough point. I took some time off work, and I wasn't sure if I'd come back. And I consulted with myself. I spent a lot of time just walking, and I got to experience what it was like to not be obligated to do anything. It brought me back to what I've always been interested in, which is like knowledge and human connection. And that experience also gave me like a bit of physical and emotional distance from like what I do for work, and who I am. That was like my first taste of it, was taking time off work. Keep in mind, for the first few years that I worked there, I was always taking under the amount of PTO, the time off that I was supposed to take. Maybe like 50% of what I was supposed to be taking. And I wouldn't take off like a full week because I don't know, I was afraid that the world would shift too much, and or things would break if I wasn't looking at them. Yeah, and that's actually another piece is I was I was afraid that if I didn't know something or if I wasn't present for it, then that thing would break or not function. And it was my responsibility to handle everything. I couldn't trust other people to do it because what if this goes wrong or that goes wrong? And that made me probably like a difficult student leader to deal with like 10 years ago. As I'm saying this, feel like I feel some doubt in myself of whether or not this is actually the big transition that I think it is. But I I remember how I felt as I turned to 25, and I know that this is the start of something new here. So the biggest way I describe the shift is to that I've moved from being reactive and at the whims of what's presented to me to now knowing that there's actually something there for me if I take action. And I don't have to just accept what is put in front of me for fear of what's going to happen if I say no to it. I can actually decide where I want to direct my energy. I can trust the world to continue to function even if I'm not paying attention. Actually, one of the ways that I've really learned this well is I skate around everywhere on a skateboard in Brooklyn to get places. And whenever I would do this before, I would always have my head on a swivel. I would be looking for cars, make sure the car noticed. Did the car notice me? Oh, good. Okay. Good. I'm glad they saw me. Like, let me keep going. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the biggest danger is not the car running into me because they're not paying attention. The cars are actually pretty good. The biggest danger is me looking at the cars and having my board hit a pebble or something, and then I run into traffic and then the car hits me. So I've come around now to seeing that I'm safest when I'm tending to the things that are in front of me. And this belief that everything would fall apart around me if I stopped paying attention was actually a projection of the fact that I never paid attention to what was in front of me. And therefore, no one else must be. So, yeah, when I skate now, I'm always focused on just the first few feet in front of my board, and very rarely on the cars now. And that's really how I like to operate. I really believe that there's wisdom everywhere, and that it is that deep, and that there's some piece of something that you can take from one area of your life, one area of my life, and apply it as like a general principle, see how that goes. So if I can trust myself on a skateboard to focus on just what's important to me, then what's going to happen at work? Can I just focus on what's in front of me? Yeah. So yeah, I think I spent plenty of time over the last 25 years reacting to what I thought would give me safety from the outside world. The lifeboat of having a good degree, getting good grades, having the approval of people around me. And I could see that it kept me safe for that period to get me here, but it's ultimately not sustainable in the long run. And I've reached that point where it just can't be. The other thing was going through an experience and seeing how much my own shame was holding me back from doing what I could do. I had a lot of feelings about that. The substance of what I believe or what I bring to the table is not enough. I actually need to perform, like literally as like a actor. Like I need to be an actor because the substance of my ideas, the substance of my work won't support me on its own merits. And to notice the number of times that I was throwing myself under the bus, saying things about myself, distancing myself from the actions that I took, and in the moment I knew were correct for me. But as soon as they came into just a little bit of conflict with whatever someone else was saying, I would just assume their frame of mind as default, and apologize, call myself and my actions ridiculous, frame them as that way, couch them so that they wouldn't need to be questioned. I think I now see it that these things can totally be questioned. It's actually good for them to be questioned. But the opinion that the other people have of them, people in my life, people that I care about, does not need to change how I act. And they may even respect me more for it if I don't buckle. If I wasn't presenting myself as like taking my own self serious, then other people were just following my lead on that. yeah, I think another thing that's changed is, or one thing I've noticed is that I always wanted everything to be done right now. Um, and that it was really uncomfortable to wait. I remember in fourth grade or third grade, I really wanted to be in middle school already, because in middle school you get lockers. And that felt like real school to me, not whatever fourth grade was, where we sit in the same classroom and don't change periods and we all have different subjects and all of that. So I didn't want to be where I was. In high school, all I could think about was college. And in college, all I could think about was getting a job. And once I had the job, I wanted to act like I had already done something for my voice to be taken seriously at work. I was basically acting like I was 20 years ahead of where I was. And that means trying to steer the conversation like I'm a 40 something and trying to, and feeling all of the responsibility, as if I also was like in charge. But I'm really early. I mean, I'm maybe not even a third of the way through my life. And I have to gather the experiences now. I'll have plenty of time for people to take me seriously later in my life, once I've accumulated the experience that people want to hear from me. But to start, I just need to focus on accumulating the experience first and finding other people that resonate with how I think and what I want to do in life. I can see now how all of these things that I felt like I had to cling to so tightly, they were all supporting me. And I just need to have a little bit of stronger personal integrity, and trust in myself and my own feelings, thoughts, direction in life, ability to right my own ship, to see how all of these things that are around me, my family, my friends, my education, my job, my mind, how all of these things support me, and I don't need to feel suffocated by them or like beholden to their approval. And people can respond well to speaking your mind and stubbornness when I actually feel it and it's genuine. So I've been so go, go, go for so long. And I think at 25, I'm going to move a little slower. Not with less intensity or less focus. Actually, probably more focus than what I had done before. But I'm going to move slower and treat myself with the grace of that a young person deserves. And allow myself to mess up and notice what happens to me when I mess up, that actually the world doesn't collapse. I can mess up, I can lose an attachment to some source of prestige, and I will be fine. Because up here, there's more where that came from. So yeah. Now it feels like the rubber is hitting the road. I've I had the script handed to me at 10, and I just needed to follow it for like 15 years. Follow it to its logical conclusion, notice where it breaks, and now I'm writing a new script for the first movie was a success. The first 25 years was a success, but left some things hanging, and now I'm here to capitalize on this next bit. And maybe some shit will fall off. Maybe some things will break in this process, but I'll know more of myself for it. And I'm really excited for where life's going to take me next. So